Um, Good afternoon, everyone. Buonasera. Uh, Thank you for having me today. Um, well, um, Presenting myself, this is Raul Fernandez Pachas and my co-author, Professor Jose Velázquez Costa. This is the sequence. But first of all, we've got to understand the context of the problem situated in the Amara Commercial Emporium. Like is shown in the pictures, this is the very big city dedicated almost exclusively about clothing manufacturing. And that's a very interesting thing because it's only these clothes are distributed locally and over and around the country and South America in a sense. And most of them are micro firms. And some of them are informal. And this brings to some problems of it, like an inefficient management and uncertainty because they don't have like, they're very empirical. So they don't have this knowledge. And also because they don't have so much efficiency in the process, they are prone to waste time and even work overtime. So there's no clear full protection of labor law. And of course, they can pay social contributions, some of them. And this brings to critical problems that makes not readily apparent to the warehouse worker about to witness that the problem about the warehouse environment, because we will gonna tackle this problem about the warehouse environment. So first of all, we witnessed that they don't know about the turnover rate of raw material from an accurate view about numeric values. And so they don't have a classification of coding system, these raw materials about fabrics like cotton jersey and suit and many other materials. Then this goes with an uncertainty of localization of it, and this will generate a low localization capacity, and this will bring to disorganized warehouse, delayed of localization, and finally the production stoppages that we as engineers we try to avoid. And then for the second specific problem, we may see that without the classification code of raw material and the disorder in the warehouse, will bring a problem of picking delay. And this bring to the low dispatch capacity of raw materials, which is a bad thing because will bring to a dispatch delay to the production department, because these fabrics, these inputs, will go to the production department. And this delay, even of 5 or 10 minutes or this amount of time, will bring some problems. Then, of course, will increase the opportunity cost. That amount of time implies this certain amount of productivity. And then that's why the general problem joined these capacities of localization and dispatching, and we say how to improve the warehouse management capacity in the micro, small, medium enterprises of clothing manufacturing business. And the specific problems that I just mentioned about localization capacity and dispatching capacity. And our objectives aims to improve these capacities, and the general hypothesis to reduce the service time of the warehouse, and the specifics ones about the localization time have to be reduced afterwards, as well for dispatch time have to be reduced after the implementation or the proposal. So we can talk about the importance of order picking process, but this is more a theoretical background, I guess. But in summary, after the right implementation of the serial codes, and even something interesting things about intelligent warehouse management, but this is another part because these very young firms are more empirical. So they will understand more about serial codes, but not yet to the intelligent process that we use nowadays with computers, programs, and so on. And for research methodology, we can talk about this applied research, of course, apply these engineering tools, explanatory to understand the root of the causes, cross-sectional is bounded between this January to March 2020, just a little before quarantine, and consisted of 139 ODAs. The sample is of 102, and these techniques that we use to interviews and observation. So it's a quantitative research also, of course, to measure these capacities and the validity and reliability of, just to showcase that it's over 80% for validity and reliability. So descriptions of reality results, we can focus on the ad hoc process mapping. And of course, we got three main bottlenecks. We can see picking, preparing location, and storage of raw materials, because they all are related to this organization of the items inside the warehouse. Of course, in the best possible solution, we will encounter a problem in the picking process. And if it's not available, we'll encounter two main problems about preparing location and storage of raw materials. Now, and these types of fabric occur only for this season, for that season of the year, from January to March. And we'll say this variety, and with the Pareto chart, is categorized within the more frequency ODAs to the less frequent. And from common jersey, of course, they used the width of the thickness. The thickness is of, but there are many different thickness, 30 out of 1 or 20 out of 1 or 24 out of 1 thickness. So it depends on that. Then, well, just after a visual inspection, just as an example, just one rack, because they have more racks, but only one rack, is this empirical organization. Of course, the fabrics, which doesn't have this best turnover rate, because it's not the right season for them, it has to be saved in plastic bags, and the current layout of it. And then the results of time study, you have to run this observation by checking the time, by measuring the time. And through reception of raw material, through the storage, picking, and dispatch, we result in the standard time of 44.28 minutes. Then we have to do the item coding in the warehouse. And just simple as that, the first three letters describe the type of fabric, then the thickness, 20 out of 1, 24 out of 1, or 30 out of 1. Then the letters, for instance, A to describe the first rack, B for the second rack, and C for the third rack. And then the levels, which could be 1, 2, or 3, and so on. So for the proposed layout, it changed a little bit in the sense that if the current layout, just from an empirical view, they organize the racks and, well, like dispersed in the layout, because they can organize the fabric rolls, which are in high demand, these fabric rolls to storage these fabrics. And they could join the racks, in fact, to save all that fabric rolls, and then to remove it when they may demand it, maybe demand it. Then the pallets for this, in Spanish, we say that like a yard, like yards of fabric. And then this will result in a reduction of movements. it implies from the current layout of 23.5 meters will be reduced to 18.4 meters. So in time, explaining time measure, it will decrease from almost 6 minutes to 4.5 minutes. Yes, and so as you see, the string diagram showcase that if the current layout needs 5 nodes, the improvement proposal will need only 4 nodes. So this is a much better scenario. Then the results of improvement proposal implies that the new standard time will be 27.62 minutes against the 44.28 minutes. So this only is measured for one run. So one run implies that. But to do these time observations, we have to run 14 observations. 14 observations, but this is just a summary of the time study observation sheet, just a summary of the average of 14 observations. So this is a summary. And then from the hypothesis, we applied from 3 perspectives because we try to prove if with the normality test is follow the normal curve, if the sample size is enough to prove this randomness. The primary test, if actually occurs this change from between and after the events of the improvement to prove the hypothesis. And from these 2 scenarios, Shapiro-Wilk, of course, is greater than 0.05, and Shapiro-Wilk in this is definitely greater than that. As for primary test, the hypothesis is rejected for this value. And then causal hypothesis to prove this relation between these variables of location capacity and location time, as for the second scenario of dispatch capacity and dispatch time. So these results are greater than 0.8. So that's a good thing. It implies there's a true nature between a relation of these variables. Then the economic evaluation, of course, here is converted to dollars to understand it better. But well, we understand it at first glance in soles, but okay, here's in dollars. And the thing is, each year they will save $1,061.99 a year. But this is a good thing for a very small sized business in the clothing manufacturing business, because in Peru, I don't know, cost of living is less if we compare with Italy, and also the incomes are less. So this implies a good thing for these small firms. And also it's a good thing because most of these young firms, micro firms, doesn't have this warehouse. This is a like kind of a strange scenario, because most of the youngest firms, micro firms, doesn't have even a warehouse, and that could imply a bad thing, because if they need a production of over 200 uniforms just for one order, 200 uniforms, they have to call the provider, and they have to spend almost 1 day, it depends, or 2 days of delay. So 1 or 2 days of delay, it's a lot. And most of them, we are more used to receive this kind of notices or news, like, well, your order will arrive with 2 or 3 days of delay. So that's very normal in Peru. But it's less common that we could find a micro firms that comply with the schedule. It's very rare, but it happens. Some micro firms have this clear schedule. And that's why this efficient management of the warehouse will be possible and will help in some measure to the productivity of the line. Then, but of course, these solutions can be boosted even more with the smart solutions, right? And that for conclusions, we can say this dispatch of raw materials at first was inefficient, and the delay as an average of 10 minutes could cost a lot for the production department. And then if they could, the lack of localization capacity reduce the warehouse service, the lack of localization capacity may cause overload of activities and for the warehouse worker. So in some situations, they work over 8 hours, like 10 or 11 hours of work. And that's something that commonly happens, but it's not a good thing. It's not a good sign of productivity. In fact, 8 hours of productivity with a high efficiency, it's better and give better results. So the standard time of the warehouse service can be reduced in 37.62% with this proposal. And finally, it is proposed to take advantage of the cost opportunity because these savings of 4,704 soles annually is a good thing to invest in another important things. Like being formal, for instance. Being formal costs a certain amount of money, and with that, they could access to more benefits and rights. And then the recommendations, it's recommended to carry out a periodic control with indicators and be aware if maybe we exceed the capacity of the warehouse worker, because we have to avoid this overload of activities because they could decrease their productivity, and that will be harmful. Then second, once improvement has been implemented, is of course they have to keep in that way to continue assigning in the right location and according to the other for the better service time. So grazie.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Any questions? Yes, Shabir.
Thank you, Professor, for the nice presentation. Again, you have questions. I just want to know about my info. If I have a factory or whatever, let's say this double of the size, will this model be effective?
Very good question, Professor. I say can be effective, but I rely more in the smart management of the warehouse. So if it's bigger and bigger, with these smart solutions, like track each item with a software or with these codes, but
because you selected 2 different layouts, right?
Like 2 different layouts. Yes, but I think with these smart solutions, like tracking with these softwares, will it be better? Yes, will it be better? But this is just for the early stages of the firm.
And the second
Observation. So it's a direct observation.
So 0.25 is observation.
2.5.
Let's see. There is time there. How? Like I was thinking that it is by gauge, because it is 0.29. Nobody can experience it.
Well, we measure in the sense that
Maybe it's because this is challenging part because I was just trying to understand the progression of research.
Yes, yes, because we from the practical view, we just take the total cycle, and then as we see the normal tasks that they develop, we made like a proportional measure from the perspective we received, but it's not exactly that we measure a start and stop, but we took the entire cycle to then make the proportions, because definitely at the end of the cycle, they have to be the total amount of nearly 13 minutes, for instance, for that cycle. But we see that maybe they will invest more time in the checking process compared to the receiving. The receiving will take less time. So we make proportions, but it's not that exact amount of time that we took every time. Yes, but this just to showcase these differences and identify each step to find the right solution. Mhm.
And so thank you very much for your presentation.
Right.
Do you have anyone who will take your picture?
Yes. Okay. Thank you. Oh, thank you.
Congratulations.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so for our last presentation, we have, would like to invite Gabor Prince from Masuchalu. Oh, no. University of Applied Sciences, Weiner, Neustadt, Austria.
Yeah.
Correct? So his presentation is a literature review on the prediction and monitoring of assembly and disassembly processes and discrete make-to-order production in SMEs with machine vision technologies.
Thank you very much.